We're all set. And I think the NFL isn't going to mind this one. It's going to be Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes for everything. For all the marbles in Tampa. So this will be the first time that a team who is partaking in the Super Bowl will be hosting the game. And it's funny that this now happens in a year where it's not like any other. So I would expect a lot of Tampa Bay Bucks fans in attendance. But again, this will be a Super Bowl unlike any other. But this is going to be very exciting. And this was what I predicted. It was. It wasn't easy. And I figured that these were going to be good games, and we're going to get into both of them. But it is going to be the Tampa Bay Bucks versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And I didn't make predictions before the playoffs started, but this one doesn't really surprise me, right? You have the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and you figured that it wasn't going to be easy. And in some ways, when you look at the way they got here, it wasn't. And with Tampa, it was a wide open NFC. It just was. You didn't really feel too sure about anyone. At least that's the way that I saw it. So this one doesn't really surprise me all that much. I'm very excited about it. The storylines are going to be kind of all over the place. There's a lot that you can look into here. But let's talk about the games. And I also said this last week. I said, if the NFL had a choice in which game would go first, which game would go second, in my opinion, I think that as much as both are really exciting, I believe that you would have wanted to have the Chiefs-Bills be first and then Bucks-Packers be second. I just think that the Brady versus Rodgers game is just going to draw a little bit more than Mahomes versus Josh Allen. This is something that switches off every year, right? So this year it was the NFC being the first game and the AFC being the second game. Last year it was reverse. It's one of those things. That's just the way it is. It's kind of like with the Super Bowl also, where technically like this year the NFC will be the home team. So, but I guess I have kind of wondered why they do that with these championship games. You'd think that there would be like a decision made, the week before, like once the divisional games are done, all right, like this game should be the second game. Not a big deal at all, but just getting to the point, this was basically confirmed because the Packers versus the Bucks, that was the game. That was the game this weekend for sure. It had everything. And the Bucks jumped out to a very fast start, and they were leading basically the whole game. They were. And in the first half, Tom Brady was fantastic. He really, really was. In the first half, he looked like prime Brady. Seriously. And making really sharp throws, deep throws. And again, I think you have to blame the Packers for A, not getting any pressure on him, and B, just flat out really bad secondary. The Bucks could have even done more, honestly, if not for some drops in that first half. So they get a Mike Evans touchdown, but the Packers strike back. Aaron Rodgers, with kind of what he does a lot, a deep pass to Marquez Valdes-Scantling for a touchdown. But the Bucks would continue on. A very nice touchdown from Leonard Fournette, who has had a very nice playoffs. He really finished the season in not a great way, and a Ronald Jones injury kind of forced him into lead action, and he's done a great job for the most part. He's not... I don't think that he's the Leonard Fournette that we saw maybe in Jacksonville, but he's still been more than serviceable. And the Buccaneers were getting good pressure on Tom Brady. They were. Jason Pierre-Paul, who is headed back to the Super Bowl, this time with Tom Brady, not against him. And Shaq Barrett was also getting sacks, and Devin White This is a very, like I've been saying all year long, this Buck team has a lot going on offensively and defensively. Now, their secondary is a bit banged up, and that could definitely prove, we'll see what the status of some of their safeties are going to be heading into the Super Bowl. That could be an issue. But they are good up front, you know, with Ndamukong Suh. They can stop the run. And again, they struggle a bit against the pass. That much is true. But when the Bucs initially got Tom Brady, I still thought at that time, I was unsure because A, what is Brady going to be like? B, I still thought that this defense had some question marks, right? Because even Jason Pierre-Paul, for example, the guy, he's been in the league for a while now. He has been. I mean, the guy was drafted in 2010. So, and he's playing at a high level. It is a bit of a, in some places, an older defense. Not everywhere, of course. Devin White, you know, in his second season is great. But, you know, even Levante David's been in the league for a little bit. And, you know, Shaq Barrett. Again, some of these players are in their prime, but obviously Ndamukong Suh is older. So this is an older team in many ways, really across the board. Even just look at, you know, the tight ends. Rob Gronkowski and Cameron Brate have been around for a while. Mike Evans, you know, you wouldn't consider him young anymore, certainly. And just the guys they brought in, that running back crew. Obviously, Ronald Jones is young, but Leonard Fournette is up. Well, I guess Leonard Fournette's really not up there in age, but it kind of feels that way. But everything kind of came together for this team. This has not been like any type of maturation process. This Buccaneer team has not made it to the playoffs since 2007. But going back into the game, a really big play was the end of the first half. And I think the big difference in this game was, honestly, huge coaching decisions. So I'm not sure if this was Tom Brady or Bruce Arians, but the situation is Aaron Rodgers throws an interception. Sean Murphy-Bunting with another interception. He's made a big impact in the turnover department all playoffs long. So the Bucs have a 4th and 3, and the ball's at about midfield. It's in Green Bay territory. There's about 13 seconds left or so. And both teams have a couple of timeouts, and initially the Bucs were going to punt. They call a timeout, and Brady's come back on the field. And you know what? I thought it made sense to do this, because even if you don't get it, Green Bay has, maybe about 8 seconds left? Like, let's say Brady throws an incomplete pass, or maybe he gets, getting sacked would have been problematic in terms of field position, but, you know, if they play it right, let's say, like, maybe Brady's had nothing, he just heaves it downfield, and, you know, it's just as good as a punt if it gets picked. I just felt like from a reward and risk aspect, this was a smart move. And it shows you have confidence in your guys. So, again, I don't know if this was Brady. It could have been, right? This is a situation different than most teams, where I could see Brady saying, look, let's do this, and Arians obliging. So, we will see kind of, you know, I guess what is said. But I think that they did a very smart thing. They get the first down, and so now there's 8 seconds left. Mind you, they have no timeouts. And so originally there was a chance there was only going to be 6 seconds left, but they put 2 seconds back on the clock, which was the right call. So they have 8 seconds. And if you're Green Bay, you have to understand that really there's a good chance that they're going to try to maybe throw the ball close to out of bounds, right? But you can't just play man coverage and hope that he doesn't throw a deep ball. You cannot let anyone get behind you, and that's exactly what happened. Kevin King lets Scotty Miller get behind him for a touchdown. And it brought me back. There's been a lot of Lambeau Field. This wasn't a Hail Mary, but it brought me back as a Giant fan when Hakeem Nicks got a touchdown at the end of the first half, which, you know, eventually led to a Giant win in the playoffs against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And then also for the Packers, when Randall Cobb in the 2016 playoffs against the Giants also got a Hail Mary touchdown. So weird things happen in Lambeau at the end of the first half. This was not the first time I've seen this, and it did not go well for Green Bay. And that was really big. That was huge, and they could not let that happen. That just, that you lose games by doing that. There's just no way around that. That was a terrible, smart by Tampa, but even worse by Green Bay to let that happen. So it's 21-10 at half, and to make matters worse, Aaron Jones not only gets hurt on an early second half play, but he fumbles it. And this would lead to an easy Tampa touchdown to Cameron Brate, and it gives Tampa a 28-10 lead. And if you're Tampa, you're feeling pretty good about things. You're up 18, have all the momentum, but you knew that Green Bay was going to make their push. That's how it was going to be. And you know, this was starting to feel a little bit like the Patriots-Colts game back in 2006 when Peyton Manning beat Tom Brady. Patriots in that game, I had to look it up, but I knew they had a big lead. The Patriots in that game had jumped out to a 21-6 lead. They would eventually lose it. I thought maybe here, similar circumstances, Brady on the road, Rodgers kind of being the equivalent to Peyton Manning in a way. Obviously, there had been more matches between Brady and Manning, certainly, than Brady and Rodgers, but you get my point. And it felt like, well, maybe this could be a blown game for Brady. Green Bay was making their push. And Brady was turning the ball over. So he threw 3 interceptions in the second half. Some of that was just misconnections with Mike Evans. Some of that was Brady's fault. He was taking some chances. And let's fast forward. Green Bay would score a touchdown. They make it 28-17. And then at 28-23, they would get another touchdown. And a big missed 2-point conversion where St. Brown drops an easy pass. Should have definitely caught it. They would have been down by 3. And those have effects. In the game of football, you miss a 2-point conversion in that spot, especially with that. There was a lot of time left. It was still the third quarter. So Green Bay had made a quick comeback. Like, immediately they were back in this game. And Brady, really all he needed to do was to get just some more points. And he had opportunities, but he threw more interceptions. So at this to that point, I believe he had only thrown 1. And then, yes, he had only thrown 1 to that point. And then at 28-23, he throws one off of Mike Evans' fingertips. The ball, it wasn't a great thrown ball. It was a little bit high, and Green Bay gets the interception, but they could not do anything with it. In those moments, they couldn't do a thing. And so they punt it back to Tampa. Tampa moves the ball again, and Brady, as he's getting rushed, throws another interception. Down the sideline, he got, Evans had no idea where the ball was, but again, Tampa's defense held tough. Those were huge parts of the game where Rodgers could not get it going in those situations. And so now we're in the fourth quarter, and there's about 5-6 minutes left, and Tampa's moving the ball. A very big catch by Rob Gronkowski, a 29-yard catch to get them close to field goal range. And it got dicey there also, where it got to the point where on third down, Brady just kind of spiked the ball down just because he didn't want to take a sack and get them out of field goal range. And Ryan Succop hits a very big 46-yard field to put them up 8. This was critical, and I think it was the 3 points that Tampa needed. But this game was far, far from over. Both teams had 3 timeouts left. There's under 5 minutes. It's an 8-point game. A lot can happen still. And like I said, this game had everything. This was close to a classic. It really was. And I think it could have been more so if not for the proceedings. So Green Bay moves downfield quickly, very quickly. And I think in this game, you saw Green Bay squander opportunities. Earlier in the game, they had a chance to score a touchdown, and Davante Adams dropped the ball, and a couple of another incompletes to Davante Adams, and they had to settle for a field goal. It just felt like Green Bay not getting a 2-1 conversion. They had chances. I mean, Aaron Rodgers played some good football. He did. I can't totally bash him, but there were also things he definitely could have done better. I mean, look, that interception at the end of the first half, sure, could there have been a penalty on Murphy Bunting? Yes. But Rodgers did make some mistakes in the critical spots. So they have third and goal at the 8. They're down by 8. There's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds or so to go. It's maybe 2:15, just about. And Rodgers rolls out, and I thought that he could have ran it in. It seemed like he had the ability or to the very least get the ball maybe to the 3, right? Maybe if he doesn't get in, he gets it closer. he forces it into like triple coverage, and it was an incomplete pass. So it's 4th and goal at the 8, and here comes the field goal unit. I was shocked by this. I mean, if you're Matt LaFleur and you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, you got to go for that there. And even if you don't get it, you still have 3 timeouts left. It's still a 1-score game, and Tampa has the ball in not great field position. But he takes the 3. So yes, is there a little bit of value from going from 8 to 5? Sure, but you still need to get a touchdown. And now you need to get Brady off the field. And that is something that I think Matt LaFleur is going to have a rough time getting over. That was a rough decision, and I think it severely cost them. They would never see the ball again. And Mickens, who had some great returns to the Bucs, made a very bad mistake that almost cost Tampa, where he basically goes down, gives himself up on the return at 2:02. So the difference between 158 and 2:02 is huge. So now Tampa has to run one extra play. On the first down, they get 9 yards. So now we're past the 2-minute warning, and Green Bay does a very smart thing. They take a intentional encroachment penalty because they figure on 2nd and 1, Green Bay will probably get the first. Tampa Bay will probably get the first anyway, so you might as well give it to them. Tampa Bay doesn't decline. They had the ability to do so, I believe, and they accepted the penalty. So we get to a 3rd and 4. Green Bay has 1 timeout left. If they were to make the stop, there would be definitely enough time, I believe, for Rodgers to go down, get a touchdown, and then we would see whether they would get the 2-1 conversion. And Brady, Arians and Brady decided to throw the ball, which made sense. I think most coaches would have done so. Probably not all, but when Brady's your quarterback, we've seen this. You're going to throw the ball in that situation. You're not just going to run it and give the ball back to them. So they throw it, and it's an incomplete pass, but a late flag is thrown. Johnson, the receiver, Tyler Johnson, was pulled. It was the right call. It was late, but I think that they got that call right. And that's automatic first down for the Bucs, and they would eventually get a first down on another 3rd down. It was pretty much over at that point, but that ensured that Green Bay wouldn't get the ball back, and they win the game. Tampa Bay wins the game. Tom Brady goes to another Super Bowl, and if you're a Green Bay fan, you got to be sick. You got to be sick. This is now, under Aaron Rodgers, 4 straight NFC Championship losses. Kind of like how I spoke about with Drew Brees last week. This is different, and Aaron Rodgers definitely, Brees is, basically done. I know he hasn't officially retired yet, but, he's basically done. Rodgers, as we've seen, definitely, he has years left. How many of those will be in Green Bay? I think he is a guy that, I think he's still upset about the fact that they took a quarterback, as early as they did in the draft this year. So, would I expect him back in Green Bay? I would, but I think that's an interesting storyline. He was kind of lukewarm in his post-game presser today, and he's probably just, emotional off the loss more than anything, and, saying, it wasn't my decision to kick the field goal, kind of throwing LaFleur under the bus. So I don't think he's really thrilled about things, but he needs to take some blame himself, and that's 4 straight NFC Championship losses. And some other tough losses along the way as well. I mean, the year after they won the Super Bowl, they lose to the Giants in the NFC divisional round. And that was maybe Green Bay's best team. That team was unbelievable. That was probably the best regular season Green Bay team under Rodgers. So it's just, to me now, they're just that team that has that reputation for being a team that just doesn't get it done when it really counts. And they just can't get over that hump. And I feel like the Packers kind of have this, their legacy is certainly one that is, a very rich history, certainly in terms of quarterbacks and obviously coaching with Vince Lombardi. Lambeau Field, all of that. But let's just call it as we see it. They're not getting it done. They're still going to be a good team. As long as Rodgers is there, they're always going to be in the mix. But if you're a fan of that team, you have to be extremely upset. This was a winnable game, and the Bucs decided, we're going to go for this thing. We're going to take chances. The Packers played it the total opposite. And it cost them. It did. So I look at the end of the first half, I look at the end of the game, and the Bucs decided we're not going to punt it. We're going to take a chance here. And eventually it led to them getting a touchdown. The Packers decided we're just going to take the 3 and hope we somehow get the ball back. Just awful. Terrible. And you can't underestimate things like that in these games. It's not so much a Brady versus Rodgers thing, although you'd be lying if you didn't think that it's some factor, but Brady really struggled in the second half. He did. So he was helped out by his teammates. He had an amazing first, but like I said, the Bucs, they're just a more complete team than the Packers. They are. Packers defense, it is not Super Bowl quality, in my opinion. It's just not. So let's move to the second game. And there was a lot of hype going into this one. And it's just, that Chief team is special. They really are. They really, really are. And they struggle against the Browns. And maybe that was their really, really tough playoff battle. Right? Mahomes goes down and Chad Henne is able to navigate them to victory. And that was looking like it was going to be a problem. And the defense stepped up in that game too. So the Browns never really had a chance to take the lead. They did, but then they never got the ball again. And we'll definitely remember that, the ending to that game and Andy Reid going for it on 4th and 1. It was a very ballsy move, and it paid off. Now, you're going into this game with the Bills riding high. They beat the Ravens pretty handily after struggling against the Colts. That was a close game, and I think it's a good Colt team, but they certainly made that very interesting. And the Bills jump out to a really good start. They have a decent drive. They settle for 3, a 50-plus yard field goal for Bass, and then Mecole Hardman fumbles the return. So now you're looking at a situation where the Bills have 1st and goal. They would get a touchdown. They're up 9-0. They would miss the extra point. And I guess things would kind of go downhill from there. So the Chiefs, for whatever the reason, they get off to slow starts. For the most part, they do. But you never have any doubt that they're going to come back. And they easily did. I mean, Mahomes was just fantastic. You would have no idea that he was banged up or that he had a concussion. He was unbelievable all game long. They did what they had to. And Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill, they are unguardable. Seriously, it's unbelievable. The things that those guys do, it's hard to fathom. I mean, Tyreek Hill puts up 170-plus yards. Travis Kelce gets a couple touchdowns, a million receptions, 110, 120 yards. I mean, he basically almost had like 10 catches for 100 yards by half. It was ridiculous. And the Bills had no answer. They had no answer for what the Chiefs were doing all game. And Josh Allen, he's just not quite at that level yet. He's a very good quarterback. But sometimes, look, you got to lose in these situations in most cases. Look, even Mahomes in 2018 lost to Brady in the AFC Championship game. He played amazing, certainly better than Allen did in this game. But sometimes you need those losses. And I felt like this Bill team, they weren't quite there yet, right? They basically hadn't won a playoff game in about 25 years. So you're looking at a situation where they now win their first 2 for the first time in a long time. And now you're playing in this really, riled up Kansas City crowd at Arrowhead. And, I think if you're a Bills fan, it's different than the Packers. I think if you're a Packer fan, you're sick to your stomach. If you're a Bill fan, you should be proud. It was a good season. And this game, like, if McDermott had decided to not do what LaFleur did, maybe this game gets more interesting. There was a couple of instances at the end of the first half and in the third quarter where the Bills decided to settle for field goals, where they're already down by 2 scores. And it just, you can't, against the Chiefs, you got to take chances. You cannot have that mentality. Sure, there was a lot of time left, but you have to be full go. And for some reason, they decided to go conservative. Both instances were pretty mind-boggling. And so this game never really got close again. This was not the game that I had hoped it would be. it just wasn't. Green Bay, Tampa Bay had everything. This game, it was exciting. We see the machine that Kansas City is, but Buffalo really just wasn't up for the challenge. And I think we'll see them again. I think this will be a team that is definitely up there in the AFC. I think, with the way that Kansas City's playing, that's going to be the team that every year you're going to have to stack up against them. And they are not quite at that level yet. But I think that I would not be surprised if this is a matchup that we see again, for sure. And the Chiefs are back again in the Super Bowl. They're going for back-to-back Super Bowls, and this would be the first time since the Patriots had done it years ago. And there's been times in recent history when it almost happened again. The Patriots almost won back-to-back, but the Eagles beat them after the Patriots had beaten the Falcons the year before. And it's funny, because then the Patriots beat the Rams the year after. So the Patriots had made it 3 straight years and losing the middle one. Also in recent memory, the Seahawks had destroyed the Broncos in the Super Bowl, and they came very close, of course, to winning again the next year, but the Patriots would stop them. So we'll see if Brady can stop Mahomes from winning 2 in a row. Brady's involved in basically everything, Super Bowl-wise, in the last 2 decades, it feels like. And you can't ask for anything more. I mean, Mahomes is the best we have today. He is the best. As good as Rodgers was this season, with Mahomes coming off the Super Bowl, and just and in the big games, he's been excellent. Really, even in losing efforts. Again, that Patriot loss that they had a few years back, to my recollection, Mahomes was great that game. That was of no fault of his. None at all. So this is, again, I think you're going to see, I think most people will probably be rooting for the Chiefs. And I'm going to give you who I'm rooting for and what my prediction is. But I think there needs to be a respect level for both of these quarterbacks. And it's more than just these teams, as we saw today. Brady doesn't get there without the help of his teammates. But I do think there's something to be said with him coming in there and changing the whole environment in that locker room. Again, this Buccaneer team just has not been a good team in years. Simple. They have not been. And so just not even what he does on the field. It's the off-the-field stuff, too. And I know people are sick of it. I get it completely. But I've come to the point, and again, I'm a Giant fan, so I think that needs to be taken into account in a big way. So I don't love the guy, of course. I don't think many people do when it comes to Tom Brady, unless you're a Patriot fan or, just a fan of the best player, right? You see a lot in the NBA with, just big LeBron fans, wherever he goes, the root from. You probably have that too with Tom Brady. People who maybe fell in love with the game because of him. And now you have Patrick Mahomes, who maybe could become the new Tom Brady. I don't even know how that's possible, just because of the records this guy is. It's just virtually, like I said, impossible. I don't think we're going to see stuff like this again. But I will say, I will be rooting likely for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Yeah. I won't be upset at all. It's not like I'm not going to be invested. If the Bucks lose, trust me, I will not be upset. But if I had to root for someone, I think I'm actually rooting for the Bucks. I've always, as a Giant fan, I've always kind of rooted for the NFC unless it was a rival, right? Unless it was, luckily, the Cowboys are such a joke. I never have to see them in the Super Bowl, but certainly whenever the Eagles are, I always root against them. Washington, again, they haven't really been a threat, so that hasn't been an issue. Or maybe if the Giants got knocked out by someone in the playoffs, there could be some resentment there. Maybe I'd root against them, but generally speaking, I root for the NFC. And then again, just you kind of marvel at what this guy does, Brady. And I'm a big Mahomes fan. I think he's going to be one of the best to ever do it in this league. But I believe, and there's a little bit of an upset appeal too. The Chiefs are about a 3.5-point favorite. I think the fact that this game's in Tampa might have a small effect on the spread. If this was in a neutral site, maybe you see the Chiefs as a slightly bigger favorite, maybe not by much. So I think I'm also going for that too. The Chiefs are the favorite. Again, not huge, but they are the defending Super Bowl champs. When they played this year, also in Tampa, Kansas City won the game. That was the game where Tyreek Hill put up 200-plus yards. That will definitely be talked about going into this and how they're going to be able to contain him, because that was crazy. But I think that, that's kind of where I'm at. But in terms of my prediction, I think the Chiefs are going to win this game. I think the Chiefs are going to win back-to-back Super Bowls. And I do believe that this should be a good game. It should be. But I think that the Chiefs just have too much. They're, like I said, it is a machine. What they do, and their defense is playing pretty well. I thought they played pretty well tonight. When you look at everything, Spags, as I've seen him as the Giant defensive coordinator, he's done some good things for this team. He did some good things for the Giants as well, which helped them beat Tom Brady, a little less than 15 years ago in the Giant first Super Bowl win against Brady. So we know what he's capable of. And I'm excited for this. I really am. There's just so many storylines, like I said. And I think the Chiefs are just going to be a little bit too much. But if there is one person or if there is one team, and I'm not even necessarily saying that the Buccaneers are the best team for the NFC. They might, one could certainly argue that the Packers were. But I do think the Bucs were the most complete team when I see everything across the board. And this has the makings of a classic. This has the makings of one of the best Super Bowls we've seen. It just is. And I only wish that this could have been a normal season. I would have liked to have seen what it would have been like for a team to be in their own stadium for a Super Bowl. I don't know if we're going to get that effect this time. But who knows? If Brady wins, why not just walk off? You leave New England, and in year one, you win the Super Bowl. Just walk into the sunset off that. You never know. The guy's super competitive, so he might want to win another one after that. But I'm very curious to see what he does. I tend to think that if he wins, he's more likely to retire than if he loses. But that's going to be something to look into. But yeah, I'm excited. This is kind of everything that I think an NFL fan would root for. Even if you dislike Brady, I think that sometimes you just hate watch. So I think there's everything into this, and I think the NFL has to be thrilled with this matchup. I'm excited. It sucks that there's going to be a week off, but I know that 2 weeks from now, everyone's going to be right back into it on the edge of their seat in what should be a epic Super Bowl. I'll talk to you guys soon.